It's time for a new episode of the Reading Room Ruffians, your favorite library podcast. Surprise, we're out of order and bringing you a book chat. We're missing Ariel, but she told me to tell you she's only read Dungeon Crawler Carl, and she still loves him. Same. So let's just get right on into it. Zach, do you want to go first?
Sure. When was the last time we talked about books? Does anybody know? It's been a while.
Our book chat wrap up for 2024.
The wrap up, yeah.
Yeah.
I think since then, I've read. Okay, so I finished up the Expanse series. I don't know if I talked about that. I knew I talked about reading the books, but I don't think I talked about actually finishing it. I did finish it. It's really, really good. I liked the ending for the most part. It's sort of like a controversial one, I think. Some people love it, some people hate it. There's some aspects that everybody agrees is just the best. One of the characters is still around at the very end, even though it's in the future. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, fantastic book series. Everybody should definitely go check out The Expanse. I've talked about it enough on this podcast that people should know about it. So, but I'm done now, so I won't talk about it anymore. The other book, I guess I want to start off with, since that was brief, is I read The World We Make, which is The Great Cities Book 2 by N.K. Jemisin. So this is the sequel to The City We Became. And that book takes place basically right after the first one. And it's all about, well, it's the same group of people. The lady in white is still over in Staten Island. So that's interesting. And it's about basically a lot more weird world-building type stuff where they go into the weird timeline space. There's sort of she describes it as more of like a tree, right? But it's sort of a similar vibe to the if you guys have seen Loki, right? The timeline and the tree at the middle and all that good stuff. Yeah, it's sort of like that. Sort of. It's really, it's pretty good. I didn't like it nearly as much as the first one, though. It just felt a little bit too large in scope, and she got really, really weird with her, I guess, strange, logic from people, and how the world is made up and how it all fits together. There's a point in there, mild spoilers, when they go to the tree thing, and she's talking about how their universe, which they can sort of stand outside of for this purpose, they can see it falling down to the root of the tree, and it's accelerating, and it's just strange. It feels like she gets a little loosey-goosey with her own internal concepts, but pretty interesting. And you also find out who the they or whatever that the lady in white is talking about. And they talk to them a bit, so it's interesting. It's interesting. Like I said, didn't like it as much as the first one. You do get a lot more of the other cities in it, though, because Manhattan especially goes around and he tries to talk to all of the younger cities, for the most part, and get them to call a meeting, right? Because all the old cities don't want to do it. But you do get to meet a lot of the other cities. London is great. What was the other one? There was one of the old cities that was actually pretty chill. I liked him. Cannot remember who it was, though. But yeah, it was a good book, just not as good as the first one.
Well, that's kind of a bummer. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you guys will like it more. I just didn't like it as much.
I literally just finished the first one. When we talked about it before, I had 3 chapters to go. So I thought, I'm just going to listen to this instead of reading it because I was tied up with other things.
Yeah.
And, of course, there was an 8-week hold, and I finally got on it.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, and finished the last 3 chapters. I thought it was kind of anticlimactical. It was just I wanted more at the end. I wanted there to be something instead of...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think it was... for me, it was more of a building characters as opposed to building a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
definitely
it was
a lot
good.
more
I mean,
about
it was
building
worth
characters.
the read. It's just that...
Yeah, I agree with that.
I I just really wanted more at the end.
Yeah, I agree. Well, see, the thing is, the ending was done. It's like, it's like the ending of the Fellowship of the Ring. You know, it's kind of stopped.
Yeah,
there's sort of like a climax there. Like at the end of that, there's the big battle, and then
I think it would have been a better climax to watch than to read. Because had it been done as a movie, you could have seen all the, and you would have been like, oh, this is so cool. But just to read it was not.
Yeah, and she wasn't super descriptive with what was actually happening. And a lot of stuff happened off screen.
Yeah.
In that one, so.
I think it would have made a better movie than a book.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't think I say that very often at all.
That would make a really fun... It would kind of be really cool to do almost like a semi-cartoonish.
Yeah.
Semi-like live action. Almost kind of like Into the Spider-Verse.
Like most books would just be better as animated. But, yeah.
Oh, then you would miss all their internal thoughts, which is what I like about a book. Because you could hear them come to that decision instead of just doing it. But this one, I don't think there was much decision making. It was just...
Some of it there was, but yeah, you didn't get to see a whole lot of it.
No. Queens, you would have missed out on because she had stuff going through her head more so than...
Yeah. No, sometimes it improves the book, though, because I didn't want to hear any of Katniss's internal thoughts after the first book. I was like, she's such a butt. But in the movie, you don't get that because she's, you don't hear her inner thoughts, so you don't know how much she just hates everything.
True.
I feel like the book portrayal is probably more realistic in that case, but man, she was difficult to listen to sometimes.
All right, am I going next, or Carla, do you want to go next?
The other one I read was a Clive Cussler one, which I like him every now and then, called Celtic Empire. And this one was a little bit different because the bad guy was a woman. And she was like...
Good villain.
Oh my gosh. She's like, all men must die, basically.
Love that.
And they had found, and she had been searching her husband, who I guess wasn't the best husband. Because they hinted at some stuff, and it was like, I can see where that would make you mad, but I can't. But you shouldn't take out half the world because of it. But that's beside the point. But anyway, there was a plague. He was into Egyptology, and there had been a plague during Akhenaten's reign that affected the men more. It was like that biblical plague of the firstborn type stuff, but it was the boys that it affected more, and they were the ones dying more. But it changed your genetic makeup to where women would only give birth to daughters after that because it damaged those chromosomes, the Y chromosomes. And the men had trouble being fertile after that. So her husband had this bioremediation thing where it would help. He made, I guess, bacteria. I can't remember exactly whether it was bacteria or something else, but anyway, it cleaned up oil.
Yeah.
They would eat it, and then they couldn't live without the oil, so they died, and it was all good. Well, she took over that, but she also resurrected that plague and kind of like tweaked it a little bit and released it into the environments where she cleaned up the oil into like the main water systems of these big cities. Yeah. And it caused a cholera-like thing where people, and it wasn't the first, I think the first two were more deadly, but she didn't want it to kill them off right because you would, after a while you're going to get suspicious. So they tweaked it so that it was like it affected the genes more than it did the immediate. So she, released it all over the world before they caught her. And I won't tell you what happened, but
go girl.
It was, but she was like so and manipulative. She would manipulate, didn't care who she manipulated to get her way. It's like other women, she would manipulate them and literally drug them and mess with them. She would have at her big meetings, she would have stuff in the air to help them relax, like essential oils and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh.
She was like major. Yeah. Put drugs in their food.
That drugs.
It was I mean, she just covered all the bases so that they wouldn't realize they were being drugged. But it made them highly susceptible to her ideas.
That's fun.
Yeah, she was a piece of work. Yeah.
That's a good villain.
She had 2 daughters. Only one of them was all in like she was. The other one was a little
iffy.
Yeah. But it's pretty good. I mean, it's just a silly, like, James Bond type book.
Yeah.
You know, but it was good.
Very good.
Sometimes you need
the
escape.
I am going to knock out actually like one whole trilogy. Yay! So I reread The Daughter of the Pirate King and Daughter of the Siren Queen. I read those, in 2019. And then because she finally came out with a third book, which is Vengeance of the Pirate Queen. And all 3 of them were really good. The first 2 are about Alosa. She is the daughter of a pirate king. And you also know that she is, like, her mother was a siren queen. But she died giving birth to her. And her father is horrible. Like, we hate him. And she is on this secret mission to get kidnapped by a rival pirate ship.
Wait, did you say she's on a mission to get kidnapped?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure I understood that.
Her dad sends her on this mission to get kidnapped on this ship where they suspect, they aren't 100% positive, but she is supposed to find a piece of a treasure map that is split between the 3 major pirate families before her dad took over as king. That leads to the island of sirens because he wants to go back and get the treasure. So she spends the first book on the ship and basically trying to convince them that she is...
Which ship?
The rival ship.
Okay.
Yes. And she spends most of the book trying to convince them that she is actually captive and not sneaking out literally every night because she can break out of the cell. Like, she's a pretty good badass, honestly. And she gets caught a couple of times, but she's able to, like, kind of turn it around. There's supposedly a couple of spies on this ship who work for her dad. And one guy announces himself to her, like, whenever she's caught, and she's just kind of like, I need to kill you. And he's like, no, he makes, like, the sign of her father's whatever. Anyway, so whatever. The second book, she's trying to find out what happened to her mother. I don't want to, like, say any other, like, anything crazy with that, but I should also note that Alosa has her own ship, and she runs it almost entirely with girls and women, and we love that. I think she has, like, a total of 4 men on her ship the entire time. Like, she said, we can do it as women. We're better. And women are also not susceptible to sirens. So she's always like, yeah, you guys can say that you're really cool, but you have to wear earplugs. So I guess you suck. Like, and then the third one is actually from the point of view of one of her best friends who is, like, one of her, I guess, her right hand. And they travel to an island. They get stranded and then wake up this really creepy Ice King dude-ish. He's terrifying, honestly. He kills things and then immediately resurrects them, and they can, like, see. He can see through them. He can hear through them. Like, it's kind of creepy. Like, a very good villain in this one. Like, very, very good. Because he attaches himself to her second, right? And she's supposed to be the captain of the ship. She's never been a captain before. She does not like being seen by people. She is an assassin, so she does not like being the center of attention. So she's the captain of this ship, and she's like, I'm doing everything wrong. Then she wakes up this dude, and she's like, I'm really doing everything wrong. And then he's like, you're my soulmate. And she's like, I'm doing everything wrong. So like she's been the entire book trying so hard to fix everything, and it just gets like worse and worse. And it's such a good book. Like these three they're YA books, but they have like high action, high adventure, and some really good fantasy elements. I would not say that they're like for the super weak of heart, because like bad stuff does happen, and it's not glorified, but it's also not played down. So, just go into that. But I love these books. They are so good. I do recommend them. They're by Trisha Levenseller. She's fantastic. So there are those.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm. They are
I don't know if
good.
it's my kind of book, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah. I think I would read it, especially if it's anything like Rolling in the Deep. Those are really good. It sounds.
It's not that scary, but it's
that kind of theme.
Yes, yeah.
No, it's basically One Piece. That's what
I
I'm
mean, you
hearing.
got sirens,
Sirens.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta watch out for them sirens.
Yes,
They'll
you
get
do.
you. Sing with them pretty little voices. All right, I guess I'll go next. So my next book, it's actually I've read two of these. I've not read the third one yet. The first one is called Children of Time. It's by Adrian Tchaikovsky. First of all, great name. Second of all, this is a dummy thick book. I actually wanted to do this for our deep dive ones, and you guys vetoed it because it's only 608 pages. It's not that bad.
We're struggling.
It's
like
kind of dummy thick.
200 pages. What do you mean?
Just 608 pages in the hardcover version. So
my God,
paperback's probably a lot more.
Our job must be much harder. Because none of us can do it.
Yeah, that one's kind of thick. Anyway, so it's a sci-fi book. It's based on I couldn't get an exact sort of date range, but it's some time in the future. It starts off I'm guessing somewhat near future, maybe a few hundred years. Basically, there is an advanced race of humans or civilization of humans. They go out, they're doing terraforming projects all around. And one of them is this lady. Her name is Kern. And she is trying to seed a world with monkeys. And she's going to give them a virus. There's a virus that goes down on this already prepared world. It's got a lot of animal life there. It was a dead world. They terraformed it, and they put a bunch of animal life there from Earth, right? Mostly bugs and crustaceans and things. Anyway, and squirrels and whatnot. So she sends down. She tries to send down the monkeys. She does send down the virus, but while she's trying to send down the monkeys, there's been some strife that was happening. So between the sort of people who were wanting the technology to advance more and more, and then the people who were kind of anti-tech, and the anti-tech people set out this virus that could take out a bunch of ships just basically everywhere, and it screwed up. Something about that screwed up the monkeys. They burnt up in the atmosphere. She ends up staying on the monitoring station and cuts it off from everything else and goes into cryosleep. Anyway.
Oh.
Yeah, she goes into cryosleep because she wants to wait for her monkeys, and she's just gotten betrayed by everybody. So it's been a while. I can't remember all the details of exactly how it happened, but basically that's the idea. There was some sabotage happening. There was a big war. Basically wiped out all of humanity. We don't know that at this point, but you find it out right afterwards.
Spoiler.
I mean, it's right after. This is the beginning of the book.
I'm just kidding.
I haven't gotten to page 3, I think. Anyway, so then we do skip to a different group of people, and they're all on this ship, which is a generation ship. Well, not a generation ship. It's just a cryo ship. It's long hauling a bunch of people, and this is one of the last sets of people from Earth who have survived and built up their stuff, and they have technology that is not as good as Kern's technology. So they're going out there. They're trying to find Kern's world because it has that beacon like flashing out there, and they know that this place was probably terraformed. So they go out there and they're looking at it and they're trying to find it. There's a bunch of people. They're all in cryosleep. There's a group of core people. They wake up, and they're supposed to be deciding what to do with it. They get into a little bit of a scuffle with Kern, who's like, "No, you can't have this. This is where my monkeys are, blah, blah, blah." And she like spooks him and sends him off to some other place. And so they start going off that way. They try to keep a group of people around on the moon. There's like some sabotage that happens again. Lots of sabotaging. And that's what's happening with them. But the coolest part of this book is that because the monkeys died on entry to the atmosphere, there was nothing for the virus to really latch onto that was like primate-like. So instead, it latched onto a few different things. The main group that we follow is spiders.
Oh, you lost me there. It's like, I'm done.
No, they're great. They're the Portiid, like Portia. What kind of spiders are they? It's like, they keep calling them Portia. Portia spider. Yeah, it's just called a Portia spider. Portia. And it's a jumping spider. If you Google a Portia spider, they're the adorable ones with all the fur. They're really cute.
Like the cute ones?
Huh?
Is it the cute little jumping spiders? Okay.
It's the cute little jumping spiders.
As long as they're not like the size of like trucks, I think I can handle it.
I mean, they get to be about the size of...
trucks.
No, like a dog.
Oh. Still.
After thousands of years.
Can you just imagine a little baby spider being all cute?
No.
And a dog?
No.
Well, these guys they're pretty smart. Anyway, so the virus latches on them. It latches onto some ants. Then it latches onto like some crustaceans and things. We don't really follow them.
This is my nightmare world.
And the spiders are important.
Ants and spiders.
Ants are
ants
scary
and spiders.
because they're way too organized.
Yeah.
I literally watched.
And very strong.
Yeah, this video where they had given a bunch of men and a group of ants this like weird T-shaped object to move through a couple doors, but it was really kind of hard to get there. And the only thing they told the men was that they could not talk.
Yeah.
They couldn't communicate verbally or stuff like that. They just had to do it. The ants and the men finished at the same time.
It sounds about right.
And I thought the ants were going to win.
That's wild.
Yeah, I've seen videos of them doing like weird challenges like that where they had to like orient stuff around and they're like trying to figure it out, and it's just wild.
This one really was like major. They really had to work at it.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it was kind of. I was like, wow, they're too smart.
Yeah.
Yep,
and then if they get smarter, we're in trouble.
Oh yeah, well, that's what happens here basically.
I feel like quite a few different types of animals are like that. Like if we allowed them to get smarter, we'd really be in trouble.
Yeah.
Yep.
I kind of think it should happen. We should be in trouble.
So anyway, these spiders, the virus gets in them. It starts basically trying to make them be a little bit more nice to each other, less loners. And it's trying to also make them basically smarter and pass on their knowledge. They don't really have any like good writing system or anything, because what happens is that when they can distill their knowledge into like little knowledge packets and like pass that around to people eventually, but also just like they have some sort of genetic memory from the virus, allowing them to like, learn stuff faster. They don't have to like do as much. They just like learn it, and then when they have kids, it gets dispersed into all the kids, and they all have what is called understandings, right? You can only hold a certain number of understandings in your mind later, but you could, in theory, just like learn whatever you want almost instantly. You just have to get new understandings. It's really cool, actually. But mild spoilers here. They do end up running into the ants at some point, sort of in their middle or early history, and have a great big fight with them. Eventually they win, but when they do that, they start turning them effectively into computers. Right?
Okay.
Because it's like each little ant is acting sort of like a neuron in a big brain, and they can use that to basically calculate things. It's really cool.
That.
It's really cool. This book is very long, so there's all kinds of stuff that happens. I'm hitting like some highlights here. But yeah, it's a very interesting book. The first one is. I really, really enjoyed it. It was cool. Honestly, I got tired of the people most of the time, especially since it was mostly told from the point of view of one guy, and he would just wake up and terrible stuff was happening. And it like then they'd freeze him again. He'd wake up like 50 years later. They'd freeze him again over and over and over again. Well, they're going back and forth to this planet. And yeah, because it takes thousands of years to travel in space this way, because they can go really fast, but you have the speed of light as a limit.
Yeah.
And people can't stay alive that long, so they just freeze them. So it's just the whole time is this guy waking up, basically shit hitting the fan, and then him going back to sleep. And it's all kinds of crazy stuff. You got one of the main, I guess, captain guy. He is he goes crazy at some point and starts wanting to be like basically God Emperor.
Oh.
Of the people or the people, planet?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're trying to get back to the planet.
Oh, right? Okay.
But the ship is starting to degrade and stuff, and they've used up way too much food, going back and forth and keeping people awake, and trying to prep the ship for in attacking Kern, because this Kern's got way, way better tech. I mean, it's just this tiny little satellite, but it can straight up zap their ship in two. Like they couldn't do anything about it at first. Until they got there, they came back. Anyway, though, I like the spider portion the best. The spiders were a lot more interesting than the rest of them. And I think if you like sci-fi and just like weird worlds and stuff like that, this is great. And also, I think Adrian Tchaikovsky has done maybe the best or close to the best of trying to get across alien thinking to people. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, because like he's trying to explain how spiders think or would think, and all this stuff. Like, for example, they capture a person who comes down to the planet at one point, and they can't figure out if she's like intelligent or not, because they can't hear her speaking or anything, and they can't communicate because they don't understand that talking could communicate information. Because when they talk, they just tap their feet, right? It's through vibration is what they think. And they don't have good enough ears to be able to hear it very well, so they do vibration stuff.
Even at that size?
I mean, they could see her like opening up her mouth and stuff like that, but they're like, what is she doing? They couldn't figure it out.
Okay. I
because
feel like
they
if
don't
they were
think
bigger,
like
they
this.
would still have the ears that, I don't know. Their ears would get bigger. Might not like be able to hear super, super well, but.
No, they could sort of hear, but it's not enough for them to really put any importance in hearing, because they didn't need to before, so why would they put them? It's like us trying to, if something communicated with smell, right?
Yeah. Oh, I would be totally.
I guess I get that.
It's like we wouldn't even know, because it could be like super subtle sense.
Okay,
and it's like,
that.
Is that information, or you just like whatever?
Yeah.
It's, you just don't know, because it's such an alien concept for us. Like, sure, we can say, oh, there's pheromones and stuff like that, but that took us a long time to figure out in the first place. And if there was some complicated language inside the pheromones, we would have no idea for like a long time, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, these people weren't, this is like a sort of, I think at that level, I mean, at that point in the book, they were sort of in the like 50s technology, maybe early 1900s sort of technology level. They had radio, but that was about it. And they had radio, and they kept listening to Kern's broadcast, right? But for a long time, because of like some religious reasons, they wouldn't send anything back to the satellite. Because the satellite was basically beaming down math problems, right?
Yeah.
For them to solve. So that once that they could solve them, they could, they would say that, oh, they're intelligent. But they didn't do it for a very long time, despite the fact they had solved all the stuff, because of, you don't send stuff back to the ship or whatever. I can't remember what they called it. I don't remember. Anyway, but the first book, very, very good. The second book takes place, it's like 50 years after that, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not quite 50 years. Anyway, it happens after that, and I don't want to spoil anything, but there's another set of aliens based on octopi in it.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And the octopi are, I would say, even more alien sounding than the spiders, the way that they communicate and stuff.
Wow.
Because
did they use their colors?
They use their colors, and they have because they don't make noise, right? So they mostly just use their colors, and they send out like data streams, right? So that you can like communicate or whatever. But it's mostly color based. And the thing is, they work sort of weird because their tentacles are like the analytical part of them. They're actually what does the stuff, because the octopi tentacles sort of like act on their own anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think of that, but then they became like super smart, math genius type tentacles. And then the main part, the mantle, that contains like, I guess what you would call the octopus, it, at least by our understanding, that is just all emotion and desire, right? So that part says, I want to do this thing. And then they call it the reach, which is their tentacles, just does it. That's how all of their technology works. They don't consciously know how any of it works. They just have desires, and their tentacles go do it for them. And they've also been sort of engineered by a similar sort of virus, if not the same virus. I think it's basically the same virus. Because this was like a typical thing that people were trying to do at that time. It's based on a different planet, a different set of humans. I think the main thing I didn't like about that one is just like, it just wasn't as exciting, and it kind of like jumped around a little bit. But you also just didn't get as deep into how the societies worked as you did with the Spider Society. So, but overall, I really liked the first one. I thought it was fantastic, 5 stars. And then I think the second one was, I rated it 4, but they're both good. The first one is much better. And I think that honestly, if you just read the first one, you'd be fine, because there's not much else you get from the second one that you don't get in the first one.
Except
Still
for the
very good book. I mean, the octopus stuff is pretty cool. The issue is, so all the concepts in there are interesting. I just didn't like the overarching story in that one nearly as much, I guess. It's also, that one's shorter. It's only 597 pages.
Yeah.
So way shorter.
Way shorter.
11 pages. That's pretty good.
Oh my God.
All right, go ahead. I got one more book after this one, but
the only like fun book I read was the Clive Cussler one. The other things I've been reading we're doing these gardening programs. I've been reading a lot of soil science and companion planning and stuff like that. So
dirt books.
Dirt books. Yeah, literally dirt books, and the importance of like nourishing your soil so your plants don't get diseases, that type of stuff.
Sure, that
not
makes
real
sense.
Exciting.
No, not
interesting, but not
dirt
exciting.
All right. So I will do 2 more, and then I have 1 more after you have your last one, so that'll be fine. I read the Lady Janie's series. So there was like Jane Grey, Jane Eyre, and then Calamity Jane. So I started the Mary's series, and the first one is Mary, Queen of Scots, who was in the Jane Grey one. And that one is kind of everything that's happening at the same time. Or actually, you know what? I think it happens a little bit after the end. It does. Yeah. I had to think about that one. And it's really interesting. She is, so the book is called My Contrary Mary. And she essentially does the exact opposite of what you tell her to do. Like she will, like if you were just like, hey, what do you think about this? She'd be like, oh, that's fine. But then the second anybody is like, do this, she's like, no. So basically the whole book is about that and how her family's basically plotted to take over like England, France, and also take back the throne of Scotland during the whole like Verity and Ethians is what they're called. The Ethians are the people who can turn into animals. Like they have their like spirit animal essentially that they turn into. And there's like a whole big, it's like a religious war kind of going on between them and the Verities who are like, that is very bad. You can't do that. Magic is awful, whatever. And so the plots are fantastic. The bad people are bad. And like, it's kind of high stakes, but it's also not. Because like these books, I like them because they're very funny, still very funny. But I don't know, there's just like a little bit of everything going on. And they're just so nice and like filler books. And then the next one is My Imaginary Mary, which is about Mary Shelley. And Ada Lovelace is also in this one, and they're best friends. And Mary is in this, she is called a fae. And so, I mean, like how we know that is a little bit different than how it is in this world. Like they can do magic, but it's usually like the creative types or like, engineers, writers, poets, like anything and everything to do with that. They are typically fae, like if they're really, really great and they can basically imagine anything they please, but everything comes with a cost. And so there is also a villain in this one. Fantastic. It's a guy who is trying really hard to resurrect life, basically. And he has this show that's always been faked before, but she is at this party. And so he has a dead frog on a table and he's trying to electrocute it. And she is sitting there thinking like, my gosh, this is just so rude. Like, why would you do this to a dead frog? And then she kind of just thinks, oh, it would just be better if that frog were alive. So it actually comes to life.
Oh my.
She has no idea that she's done this. Mm-hmm. But the frog comes to life and the guy doing it is like, I did it. And so he essentially just like continues to try and recreate this for like weeks, right? And obviously it's not going to happen. And she works on an automaton that Ada Lovelace has built to basically one-up her mentor, who did something with her ideas. He made a ballerina that moves around on her own. And she said, well, I'm going to make one that's functionable. So she built this automaton who is like, he does all of the things. Like he can be a servant. He can help you with embroidery, like anything and everything. And she names him Pan. And Mary and Ada bring him to life. And then they find out that actually what happens whenever you do that is you put your life force into that. Like, if it's just something that's like, oh, I created an illusion of the moon and, whatever, that's different than actually bringing something to life. And they didn't know how much of her life she had given. So it's just like, this whole big adventure. And Ada and Pan get kidnapped by the evil doctor. And they end up, I think they end up in France and then in Switzerland, I think. It's a big journey. There's a whole bunch of journeying going on. Very good. Very good.
So they made a Horcrux, basically, is what you're saying.
Basically, yeah.
So if she dies, then she's gonna be a ghost until like. Yeah, I know.
No, she doesn't die. Essentially, she just like basically gave up some of her life. Oh, I know, but also like it was kind of complicated until the end. Whenever they really explained, because she does. So she's brought the automaton to life, right? But he's still like a metal man. Then Ada and Pan are kidnapped. And he does the whole trick, and he is like, the evil guy tells Pan, you do what I say or I'm going to kill Ada. And he's just like, that's just so rude. I don't even understand. And at this place, Mary ends up coming to this show. And she sees Pan. She ends up causing a distraction. And she then turns Pan into an actual boy. Like, she envisions like brain, like all of his bodily functions, like everything. And so she swapped Pan's body with the body that the evil guy had in the basement of his theater. And so that's how that was able to come about, if that makes sense. So she'd not only put life force into him that way, like to bring him to life as a metal man, but like straight up put even more force into it later. And so they were like, you can't keep doing this. And she's like, okay. And then she does, gives him a little bit more to keep him going on whenever she sees him like slowing down and stuff. It's very good. And parts of it, just Pan specifically, made you like want to cry because he's really learning about the world and everything going on. And he's already smart, like, book smart, but he's not necessarily street smart. So seeing him come to terms with like people aren't always nice, people aren't always good. It just is kind of like, oh. But it's good. It's good. I like the.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Could have serious romance vibes too.
They do. They're kind of romancy. They're not like, they're YA books. And so like some of them have more of it than others. Yeah. Like this one, not so much. It's like a bottom of the, but so much fun. This one focuses more on we're best friends and you're not going to separate us. It's good.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I guess we'll go with my last one here. I'm not done with it. I'm like real close though, so I have predictions as to what's going to happen at the end, but we'll see. So the rest of it's been somewhat predictable. So this one is called The Ministry of Time, and it is about basically there's a group of people who work for, I believe it's the British government, and they are called bridges, and the bridges basically try to help all of these people who they call expats sort of come to terms with the fact that they're not in their own timeline anymore. So basically, the British government has gotten their hands on a time door which allows them to yoink people from the past, right? So they yoinked a bunch of people from the past, from all different places and times. Like it goes back to the 1600s, then up to the 1800s, that sort of time range. I don't think that they had anybody from the 1900s. I don't think so. Anyway, so they yoink all these people out basically right before they were going to die. That way it wouldn't change the timeline at all. It wouldn't affect anything, was the thought, because they've just taken them. Anyway, so the whole idea is that you have these people who they're like sort of all partnered up, right? You've got the bridge, you got the expat. They live together. They talk together. They try to basically make the expat more okay with modern times, because if you aren't like basically if you can't come to terms with the fact that like it's normal here and whatever, the idea is that you start slipping out of time and you can't really live there anymore. They don't explain exactly why that happens. There's something about here-ness and there-ness that comes into play. If you are using your quote-unquote here-ness, then I don't know if I want to spoil this, but basically it has to do with them being detected by like technology and stuff like that. For example, if you walk through a metal detector and you sort of like are slipping back into the past, it just doesn't pick you up, right? even if you've got stuff on you. It just doesn't. Or not metal detector, like one of those scanners that they have at the airports now. You know what I'm talking about? The ones that go whoosh around you.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what those are called. Anyway.
The body scan?
Like that. Like the body scanner things, yeah. Anyway, but that's sort of all stuff that happens in there. It's interesting to hear about, but that is definitely not the focus of the book. The focus of the book is about the main character who is partnered up with somebody from the somewhere in the 1800s. I can't remember exactly when he is. But anyway, those two and basically their relationship, it's a romance. When it comes down to it, it's at least mostly a romance, much more than it is like a sci-fi book. I personally wish they would have leaned into the sci-fi a little bit more, but because there's like a bunch of really cool stuff you could have done with this, and they're finally like at the very end here. Like I've got maybe 50 pages of this book left, if that. At the very end, they're starting to get into the weird time stuff that, you know, you sort of think about when you think about people going back and forward in time. And yeah, so that I wish there was been more of that. But also the main character, she's difficult to deal with sometimes because I guess I just don't understand her motivations a lot of the time. And I don't know. I'm just not a big romance person. So like hearing her logic internally about the romantic stuff just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. It's a pretty good book, but I think that I actually don't even know if you guys would like it as much. Maybe. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good overall. I'm enjoying it thus far. I'm probably gonna give it like 3.5. I'll round up to 4, but It's The Ministry of Time by, what's her name? Kalaine Bradley. Kalaine? I actually don't know how to pronounce that name. She's okay, so this is basically like a stand-in character because the character in there is British Cambodian and she is British Cambodian.
Oh.
And actually sort of looks like the character as described. So self-insert
you gotta write what you know.
Sort of thing. Which is fine. I don't mind that at all.
I'm about it, yeah.
Like it's interesting. Maybe that's the reason why I'm having difficulties like vibing with her. But the book itself is pretty good. I just don't understand the motivation sometimes. And the sort of, I guess, really strong adherence to the rules that this character has, despite the fact that it's clearly not great. I mean, there is this idea of her like sort of just following orders type thing, though she does break them for some reasons, but it's like, are you sure that this is the right thing to do? Also, there's a twist at the end that you could see from about halfway through the book. It's pretty obvious at the point what the twist is going to be. So, yeah. Also, like it takes forever for this romance to get going, and then it's like nowhere. Like it goes for like 10 seconds and then it's over because you're at the end of the book.
Yeah, that sounds horrid.
But I don't know. You guys might like it. Check it out if anybody likes sort of sci-fi and romance together. I think it could be really good. I just didn't think it was that great, personally. But the cover is really cool. So
well, there you go.
That's your problem.
Worth it just there.
Just for the cover.
Yeah.
All right. My last book, I read Throne of Secrets by Carrie Maniscalco. It is a Prince of Sin book. It's number 2 in the trilogy, but it kind of like picks up at the end of her other trilogy. So basically you just follow the princes of hell. This one is about Prince Gluttony and his rival, Adriana St. Lucient. And she is a demon. I guess you would call all of them demons in hell. So whatever. But she is a scandal reporter and she hates him, hates him. She wants to ruin his life. And so obviously they fall in love. This is definitely a romantasy. So just so we're not like expecting there is definitely a lot of spice in this one. But in my opinion, they're a lot better well done than Sarah J. Maas or, Rebecca Yarros. Anyway, so I really like this one. It's an enemies to lovers, and then you find out about hexed objects some more. This is something that has been visited in the other books. And there are ice dragons, and they suddenly start attacking the realm.
In hell?
Yeah,
ice dragons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're scary too.
I guess when hell freezes over, as they say.
Yeah, right. Yes. There's.
Did they make that joke in there?
There's no, they don't. But but there is like they do have winter and stuff there. So I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of a cool concept. I don't either. So yeah, it's like it's fun to think like it's essentially Earth, but not, But so anyway, ice dragons start attacking the realm, even though they totally shouldn't be, and it's very confusing. And she hears like rumors about it, and so is trying to uncover it. And he knows that she is asking questions, so he's trying everything in his power to keep her from finding out, because he knows she would be the one to break it. She would be the one to literally ruin his life. And he's like, I just can't be doing that. And it just is a whole thing. He decides to host a realm-wide search for a bride. So he has like women from all 7 circles of hell, and like one from each, and is either like a royal or a noble or a common born. And so it's like this whole big thing. And he tries to hire her to be the exclusive writer. And he offers her $1 million. Essentially, they are called something else in the book. $1 million per story on this, right? So she would get at least $7 million, $8 million if you count the interview with him. So like, that's insane. And she's like, no. And he's like, what do you mean? Anyway, it's great. It's fantastic. They end up falling in love. I'm not going to say how, because it's fantastic. You definitely know, like, when it happens. As soon as it happens, you're like, oh my God, yeah, this. But you don't. I thought I knew what was going to happen with the twist at the end. And I did not. I was like, what? So, yeah, there were like a couple of different leads that it could have been. Not one of them. I was like, how did we even do this? Oh my God, it was great. Fantastic. So 5 stars, obviously. I think this is my favorite one. Yeah.
I haven't read it.
It sounds kind of goofy, honestly.
They're definitely like, they're not super, like, I don't know how to explain it. They're romanticities. They're not like,
Yeah, I know that this is the thing with all the romanticities, basically.
Yeah. But in my opinion,
this one actually sounds more fun.
Yeah, I really think that they are. And so the books originally, let me see if I can find them here. She wrote Hunting Jack the Ripper, which is such a fantastic series. And that one is like straight YA, like no sexy time, nothing. And then there's, oh my God, I'm going to have to find it. But there's another series and this one is more like the new adult. So that's whenever that's what all of these are that have like, sex scenes in them and whatever. So yeah, Kingdom of the Wicked, and then Kingdom of the Cursed, and then Kingdom of the Feared. And then we go into the Throne of, and that's the rest of the Princes of Hell. So I'm guessing each of the brothers are going to have more. You meet them all in the first Kingdom of the Wicked, and you don't like any of them, but it's really, they're fun. Like, they're different. They are very dark. They're not like happy at all. So like, don't expect that. But I don't know, there's a lot of wit and there is romance, but in my opinion, it's well done. Like, I never felt cringy. Like, there might have been a couple of I was like, well, that's just not for me. Thank you. But it never made me, like, most romanticities, I'm just like, oh my God, are we like, can we just not? But I didn't feel like that at all with any of these books. And I haven't binged them. I don't In my opinion, I don't think that they would be binge-worthy. I don't think they would be bad to binge, but I don't binge a whole lot. So, I mean, when I do, I really do. So, anyway. Yeah, they're nice. I really like them. I really like her writing style. She is, I don't know, she's just well put together, and she does pretty great. So, love Carrie.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that everybody?
I don't have any more everything. Unless you really want to talk about dirt, which I don't. So,
I mean, that's fair.
Okay, well, so we've been out of order, and we're just at this point trying to tell you what's coming up. We're not entirely positive. We've got some more shuffling going on. So we will, however, be sitting down next with our special guest, Adam Good. We will be discussing some paranormal, supernatural, spooky stuff. And so that'll be fun. And then we're going to hopefully do my nonfiction, which is Love and Whiskey by Fawn Weaver. And then I think for episode 100, we're going to do something really special. We're going to have to work out the details a little bit more, but we'll tell you next time. All right. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. It's time for us to sign off. But before we go, only the best libraries have librarians who don't shush you.